Hey everybody, what's happening? This is Snake Sabo from the band Skid Row, and welcome to another edition of Riff Lords. They couldn't actually track down a Riff Lord, so you're stuck with me for a little while. And I'm going to run through some of Skid Row's riffs and songs and stuff like that. And so I hope you enjoy it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Back in 1986, when we were putting Skid Row together, the whole idea was for it to be a two-guitar band. I had personally never played in a band where I was the only guitar player. And I always loved the great two-guitar bands, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Joe Perry, Brad Whitford, Dave Murray and Adrian Smith, Glenn Tipton and KK Downing. They appealed to me because when you played together, I thought it made the sound even heavier than if you're by yourself. And also, you could play off each other and do different rhythms. So when we were writing the first record, we were really cognizant of the fact that we wanted to have where necessary or where we felt it would work, we have two different rhythms structures going on. And one of those songs that does that is off the first record. It's called Makin A Mess. Now the intro goes like this. So that's the intro. Let's break this down a little bit. I'll slow it down. It's basically in a key E. The chords are E, D, A, G, and back to E. And so basically it's So what's funny about songs is as time goes on, you start embellishing and playing things a little bit differently than maybe you did back in the day. So for me, I could be very well playing this wrong, but we're gonna go with it the way it is that I'm doing it right now. And so basically what you're doing is you're doing like a chromatic run in the middle of that. So and then like a little pinch harmonic in there too, which is one of the things I guess I do when I'm bored with my playing. And so the pinch harmonic there is just, that's just me having fun with the guitar. So one more time at regular speed. Now that little thing there is kind of like a little blues thing. It's nothing major, just... And that leads right into the verses. Looking at the verse for a second, it's basically a play off the intro. It's very loose, and it's basically just based off a blues scale, standard blues scale, and in the key of E. So the chords are E, D, A, G, and then E, and there's a riff on the end of that, which I'll play slowly. So here's the start of it. That riff right there, slow down. Is pretty much how I play it now. I'm not sure if that's the original way I play it, but that's how I play it now. So, and it's basically, like I said, based off a blues scale. And ironically, the first lyric of the song is T-Bone Billy just a playin' the blues. That's pretty much how the verse goes. Hope that you guys grasp that. All right, guys, so let's do the intro and the verses up to speed. It goes like this. So the next song we're going to look at is Youth Gone Wild. And when Rachel and I wrote this song, we wanted to draw upon our own personal experiences in our own lives, being somewhat outcasts, and because of how long our hair was and how we dressed, and not fitting in. And so we drew upon that for the lyrical content of it. And you know, it's humbling. Never do you know how much of an impact a song may or may not have. And when people started connecting to that song, it was incredibly humbling. And it's still humbling to this day to see, like when we play live, to see the crowd mouthing the words back to you. I can't think of a greater feeling. And for us, I think I could speak for everybody that regardless of how old the song is, it's kind of our defining song. It exemplifies who we were and who we are in our spirit and in our soul. So starting off, it starts out with G, and then the chords are C, B flat, like this weird type of like a harmony chord, and then back to B flat and G. So it would be. That last part, that down to cow, we wanted something like loose and flowing. That seems, if you're listening to our music, there's a lot of the rhythm and stuff is based on the snare being at the back end of the beat. And so it has like a certain swing to it. We always try to, or we always attempt to put things on, when necessary, on the back of the beat. Like I said, just to give it that groove, and that's one of those instances. So here's that, the whole progression. So the next thing we're going to look at is the verse. And verse comes out of the intro riff, which also happens to be the chorus riff. And what you're going to do is you're going to end on this big G, and then you're going to toggle down the volume knob, bring it down really low. So it would be basically coming out of the riff, it'd be. Verse. That's an E flat. That's where it goes into the B section right there. So coming out slowly, it'll be. Okay, so this is all the way through, from the intro into the verse. Okay, so the next song I'm going to look at is Piece of Me, which is again, based around a blues scale. I'm finding that a lot of stuff that, as I talk about, a lot of stuff is based around, the pentatonic blues. So this was written by Rachel Bolan by himself, and it goes like this. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you that riff is because it's so simple, but very, very effective. And it just goes to show you that a lot of times less is more. And so while it's only a couple notes in there, it still has a really great groove and a sort of like this marching type of beat, if you will. And so next part I'm going to show you is for the A verse. And the reason why I'm showing you the A verse is because there's something that I do in there, which is like a two-handed tapping thing. And it's not crazy original, but it works within the framework of the song. So the verse would be like this. So now that is something that's going on underneath the vocal. And basically what it is just an E chord. And then I pull the low E string and dive bar. And then this next part, slowly, is basically a E pentatonic scale with the tapping on the 12th fret and the fingering on the 7th and 9th fret. So it's... something like that. Slow. That's probably about as slow as I could do it without having it sound like a bunch of mishmash. So here's the opening riff when the band kicks in. This is the opening riff. It's the same thing Rachel's playing on the bass. It goes like this. So let's take a look at that opening riff. I'm going to play it really slow so you guys can jam along if you want. Here we go. So another song on our first record, I guess it was considered sort of a ballad. I wouldn't really necessarily say it was a ballad. It was more like just a slow hard rock song. A song called 18 in Life. And this song was really, really personal to me. The character in the song, guy by the name of Ricky, was based upon one of my older brothers whose name was Rick and who served in the Vietnam War. And the song was supposed to be written around that subject matter about going off to fight a war that so many people were against, and we just couldn't get it out of ourselves, that particular storyline. So we decided to keep the main character's name Ricky, but decided to base it around a story of friendship gone wrong and the loss of a life to a dear friend. And this is one of those songs where you just don't know what's going to connect and what doesn't. And it connected with a lot of people. And one of the highest compliments a person can get is when they're told by people that, this song helped them through a rough period of time, or this song meant, so much to them. And as a co-writer of the song, you can't give me a higher compliment than that. And so basically it's in C sharp minor, and the riff is really simple. It's just starts off. Now, it's not played on acoustic. on the record completely. There's an acoustic guitar in there, and there's also an electric guitar doing the riff. But I'm doing it on acoustic just so you can hear the picking of the notes better. So basically, you're playing a C sharp minor chord, and then you're just pulling it off. Simple as that. Now, once again, letting notes ring out. It seems to be a theme that I have with running through some songs in our history. And again, it's a really simple chord progression. It's been done 1,000 times. I'm just thankful that the one time that we did it, that it got such a great reaction. So I'll slow it down for you guys so you get a clearer idea. Now back up to speed. So the next song we're going to go over is I Remember You, and it's an exercise in simplicity. The main riff consists of basically two chords, a G and a version of a C chord. And interesting story about this song is that Rachel and I wrote it, and we didn't think it should be on the first record. It was more like we wrote the song in order to exercise those muscles, so to speak, exercise the songwriting muscles. And we did a lot of that. We wrote a bunch of songs that never made the first record. And this was supposed to be one of those songs. Shows you how much we knew. It ended up being a top 5 single for us. And it was one of the songs that helped launch that first record into selling, I think almost 7 million records, and which is just sounds ridiculous to hear me say that, but it's so simple. And again, thankfully, we were talked out of it by our management, by other members of the band, that we needed to include this this song on the record. So here you go. It's just as simple as this. Okay, so now I'm going to slow it down for you guys. There's a couple things that I'm picking out some notes in between the chord changes. So I'm playing a G with my ring finger on the B string on the 3rd fret as well, and then so we go. C. I think it's like a C sus2 or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how to read music, nor do I understand anything remotely close to it, so I'm guessing. But so it's that sort of C chord, and then picking is. Let me slow it down for you now. It's that simple, but effective. And that's, again, finding like beauty and simplicity is for me as a songwriter, it's so fulfilling. Because there's a million guitar players that can play faster than anybody in the world and all that stuff. It's being able sometimes to show restraint in your playing, and oftentimes those tend to be the most beautiful pieces of music. So I'm very, very proud at the simplicity of this particular song. So back up to speed. Another great part about that song to me is Scotty Hill's guitar solo in that. If it's the absolute perfect guitar solo for that song, like that's, to me, it takes the song to another level. And so I have to give a shout out to my boy. The next song we're gonna go through is Monkey Business off the Slave to the Grind record. I'm proud to say that Slave to the Grind was the first hard rock record to debut at #1 on the Billboard charts. And even hearing that come out of my mouth is so surreal. And again, another instance of being humbled by the outpouring of Skid Row fans. Rachel and I had spent a lot of time growing up in New York City, and we're enamored with just how many different cultures existed in this one metropolis. And so we utilized our experiences of being teenagers going into New York City, and all the freaks and the different types of people that we would encounter and come to love. And basically Monkey Business is centered around that sort of subject matter. The first part of Monkey Business is it's a cleaner guitar. Cleaner than what I have right now, but you can get the idea. I'm kind of finger picking it. It's in F sharp, and it's kind of sliding from E into F sharp. I do that an awful lot where I just play the chord on the A and the D string, and this is no different. So it would be. Once again, around a blues pentatonic scale. So slowed down, that'll go something like this. So basically, the next part of the song is the main riff of the song, and it also acts as the chord structure for the chorus of the song. So it comes out of that intro. Now, let me slow that down a little bit for you guys. And it starts on an A, it's in the key of F sharp minor, and the riff goes like this. next riff of the song, out of that intro, is the verse riff. And once again, it's got, go back to that sort of that swing where everything is lying on the back end of the beat as much as possible. And it's really simple. It's again, F sharp minor, and it goes like this. Now, I'll play that slower in a second. The key to that is just having that swing, man. Aerosmith has done that, you know, almost better than anybody else. And they just know how to keep it on the back end of the beat. And I think where a lot of that comes from when I'm writing, comes from my upbringing on music. I was raised on everything from Elvis Presley to Black Sabbath, and put in a lot of Motown in there too. And if you listen to Motown records, man, the rhythm sections were just so in the pocket, and you couldn't help but just to swing your head, man, and just bob your head to it. And that's kind of what we were going after with this. Okay, guys, so now let me slow this down for you, and you guys could play along with me if you want. It goes like this. The rhythm of this is like, it's like, it sounds like dirty. It sounds like kind of nasty. The whole thing is kind of slithers, and no pun intended, but it kind of slithers through the drums. For me, the way I play, I like to palm mute a lot, which is, so at the beginning of that riff, it's palm muting when I'm doing a down, 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 and then opening it up on that A. And instead of playing the notes for the B, C, B to A, I play like the chord on the G and the D string, and I kind of slide through it. So it's like, and so just, it's a little thing. It's kind of indicative of how I just play. It's not something that I thought of. It's just, that's how the riff kind of just came out. And so it's got that, like that strut, which I love. Here's the main riff going into the verse riff right after the intro. All right, so the next song that we're going to look at off the Slave to the Grind record is Psycho Love. And Rachel wrote this one on his own, and from the moment he played it for me, I fell in love with it. I love the intro riff, which is also the chorus riff. I love the spacing in the verses. The subject matter is dark, which always appeals to me. Basically, the main riff, which is also the chorus riff, goes like this. So slow down, and it's similar with the slide as Monkey Business. I'm just realizing that as we're playing it. How funny is that? Well, I guess if you can't rip yourself off, who can you rip off? That riff slow down is like this. Okay, so if you notice in there, as well as in Monkey Business, there's that flat 5 in there. In this case, it being a C. That's That's the Black Sabbath note progression right there, which we all love and adore. But it's relatively simple. And again, a riff like that is really heavily dependent on the rhythm, the drums. And if the drums are too on top of it, that riff isn't going to work. So again, drums pulling back, not pulling back, but laying on the back of the beat. You'll find that I reference the drums quite a bit because the drums always play a big part in our riffs, how they come across, and sort of give it a distinctive swing to it. So up to speed, that riff is. So the next song we're going to look at is a song called The Threat. So one of the things that we explored on this record with the song The Threat and also with Slave to the Grind is drop D tuning. And that's where this little guy comes into play. This is called a D tuner. Now when it's in the up position, or the in position if you will, it's standard tuning low E. When you take it and you pop it out, it drops the low E string to a D. And so that's what we utilized for Slave to the Grind, as well as this song. So the riff goes something like this. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to slow it down so you guys can follow along. A bunch of pull-offs going on in there, and that's the essence of the riff. And then it's also got those harmony chords like I utilized in Youth Gone Wild. So it goes like this. Okay, so let's do this at regular speed now. Play along if you can. So in 1994, we ventured up to Vancouver, British Columbia, to work with famed producer Bob Rock on what would be the Subhuman Race album. And we were pretty burnt out, to be quite honest. We had toured on the Slave to the Grind record for 22 months. We had an amazing bunch of tours where we opened up for Guns N' Roses in the States and in Europe and in Australia. And then we went out and headlined on our own with Pantera opening up a large part of that, and Soundgarden also opening up. And it was just, we were working really, really hard. The musical landscape was changing, and a lot of the bands that were in our sort of genre, if you will, were starting to feel that a little bit. And by the time we went into make Subhuman Race, I think that we were, to be quite honest, we were disjointed. I'm a fan of the record. I love a lot of the songs on the record. One in particular is a song called Eileen. And Eileen was really, we had never done a song that sounded like this before. A very, very dark, instrumentally and lyrically. It was based upon this woman in my neighborhood growing up who would walk the streets like late at night, and it almost was like she was howling at the moon. She would stand under a street light and she would just stare at the street light, and she walked all sorts of like rickety, and I'm not quite sure what was wrong with her, but there was obviously something going on. And the song is basically like, what's going on with this poor person? Like what's going on in her mind, and what's life like for her? So that's kind of was the impetus for this song. So it's in the key E, clean tone, and it goes like this. I'm going to slow this down for you, and as you can hear, it's pretty dark. It's darker than a lot of things that I had written up until that point, but it seemed that that's what the storyline called for. So it starts out low E. Now back up to speed again. So play along if you can. So one of the cool things I like about this the song and that riff in particular, which is also acts as the verse riff, is that I have like the G and a D string ringing out at different parts of the riff. So like the first one is the G string. And so it's a little bit wacky to play because you don't want to be muting those other strings, so you have to let them. So you kind of gotta. It looks awkward, I think. At least it does to me. But if for somehow, that's what I like to do. I like to torture myself with these things. So you're basically there's no real bar chords going on there, and a G and a D are ringing out. Coming out of that intro riff. We go into a heavier part, and it goes something like this. Slowed down. Again, we're dealing with more open strings ringing out and stuff while there's movement going on underneath that. And it's really key that you don't mute any of those strings unless if you do, it's not gonna sound what we originally wrote. So it goes like this. Now back up to speed again, so it goes like this. So one of the cool things about this song is that the different levels of dynamics that are going on throughout it. It starts off with the clean, then gets heavy, then clean. And again, it's all to create this sort of atmosphere that we really hadn't touched on in previous records. And so I'm particularly proud of this song because it doesn't sound like anything that we had done previously. And I think that as a songwriter, that's something that you strive for, at least in Skid Row, where we don't want to rehash anything, but we want it to be a natural progression. And that particular song was a very natural progression for where we were in 1994. One of the cool things about this song too, which is something that we had never really done, was it kind of has a false ending. The song seems like it's over, and then we come in with a riff that again is so much fun to play live, and it goes like this. Breaking it down slowly, I'm hitting a harmonic for the first part of the riff on the 3rd fret. So you're hearing. So in the second half of the riff, I'll do like the palm muting on the low E. Now back up the speed, that'll be. so the next song that we're going to work on is a song called Swallow Me, and it's off of the Thick Skin record. Once again, it utilizes this hip little gadget here called the D-tuner. And again, it drops the low E string to a drop D. Okay, so the riff goes something like this. Slowing it down, you're starting off on the 5th fret. Basically, you're just using your, I use my pointer finger to bar the E string, which is now low D, the A string, and the D string. So it goes slow down, it goes. When we started writing for the Thick Skin record, it was the first record that we had done in quite some time. A couple new members in the band, but it was. I remember the time of it felt like a lot of freedom in how we were writing the songs, and the band was getting along so well at that particular time. Like I said, we parted ways with some members and got a couple new guys in the band. And so it's interesting because a lot of times when bands go through that stuff, the world looks a little bit different. It seems like it opens up. You had been in this a certain situation for 10 plus years, and now it was something new, and that's always exciting. And so when we were preparing a record, we still had that angst within us. Well, now we're channeling it in a different way, and I think that this record was a really fair representation of who we were as a band at that particular time in our careers. And I think I love the record because I think it's like a heavier record, and the songs on it are just, we still play a bunch of them to this day. And they're a lot of fun to play, especially Swallow Me. That riff is a lot of fun to play. And so it was the record that we needed to do at that particular time. Okay, so let's do this one more time at regular speed from the top, all right? So this next song that I'm going to play for you guys is off the United World Rebellion Part 2 EP, and it's called We Are the Damned. Once again, going back to the key of F sharp and constructing a riff out of that. It seems, again, as I said earlier, it seems to be one of our favorite keys to write in. So it goes something like this. Okay, so slow down, it goes something like this. So as you can see, throughout the history of our band and stuff, we go back to that key of F sharp. That's sort of like our adopted key. As is the case with some of the other riffs, we're using that flat 5 in there again. In there as well. So let's play it up to speed now. So I can't thank you all enough for tuning into this episode of Riff Lords. It's been such a pleasure to go through these riffs. It brought back a lot of great memories for me. And hopefully it'll inspire you guys to create your own riffs. That's the whole thing about guitar playing. I was taught a very, very valuable lesson a long time ago. And the lesson was, you know, you emulate other guitar players. It's one thing to be able to play other people's riffs, but it's another thing completely to create your own. And so what we do is, as songwriters and as guitar players, we are influenced by a great many players, and we learn their riffs and their songs, and then we interpret them in our own way, and that becomes our music. So if I'm able to give anybody any sort of advice, it would be that. It would be learn all you can from all your favorite players and favorite bands, but then create your own from that.